Mr. Sharma, really good to see you this morning. And of course, as always, lots to talk about on your brief. But I hope you'll forgive me for starting with schools, as time does rather seem to be of the essence in getting our children back into education. Is there no way in which we can see a set of circumstances in which masks, face coverings of some kind, might well make their way into secondary schools in England in the way that we are seeing at north of the border?
Well, Neil, look, I mean, firstly, I think it's really vital that we get all school children back in September. When it comes to face coverings, we have followed the scientific advice and medical advice that we've been getting, and we've made it very clear that in certain settings, such as transport or in shops, it is mandatory. But Public Health England has provided with advice which has been consistent throughout. And of course, schools have been open throughout this pandemic period, serving, taking care of vulnerable children, the children of key workers. And I want to thank all the teachers who worked incredibly hard to support them. But Public Health England has been very clear, which is that they do not recommend the wearing of face masks in schools. And the reason for this is because children, pupils are obviously mixing in the same cohorts. We've also provided, through Public Health England, guidance in terms of how schools can keep children safe, how they can keep teachers safe, and how schools can be secure, COVID-secure environments. So there is no current plan to review that particular guidance.
Sure. The reason, according to Nicola Sturgeon, that she's considering it in Scotland is because, in her view, mixing in corridors and communal areas might well make the likelihoods of transmission increase. I wonder, are there any circumstances under which the government would simply say, look, if you want to wear a mask, be you a teacher or a student, then you can do so? Leave the decision up to them.
Well, look, I mean, I think you have to look also at the science of this, and you would have seen the messaging that's come from the chief medical officers and the deputy chief medical officers saying very clearly that the chances of being infected from COVID in the school is very, very small. And I mean, if you look at the statistics from Public Health England, in June we had on average around 1 million children in preschool and primary settings, and there were 70 incidents of infection. So the chances of being infected in school are incredibly low. In fact, it is the chance of being infected are higher outside a school setting. So we have to go on the basis of the scientific and medical advice that we get, and that is very clear at this stage, which is that there is not a recommendation for wearing face coverings in schools.
Yeah, indeed. And but despite those statistics, which I'm sure which many people will be aware of, there still remains lingering concern on the part of some parents about putting their children back in. I just wonder, one last question on this, if I can. Has there been guidance issued to local authorities so that there is some standard procedure across the country when it comes to the possibility of schools being closed, be it because we've seen a localised spike or whatever reason? I'm just wondering if there is a standardised approach, a bar beyond which a local authority will know that a school needs to be closed.
Well, look, I mean, we take this on a sort of case-by-case basis, and you've seen across the country there have been local lockdowns as infection rates have gone down. Certain bits of lockdown have been removed. I think the one thing that we're very clear about is that, of course, we want to keep schools open. And if we were to be in a lockdown situation in a local area, I think the last thing we would want to do is to shut schools down. It's really important, Neil, and your viewers will understand this, and you understand this, that for the life chances of our children, we need to make sure that they're back in school, they're getting that support. It's good for their health being, it's good for their education, it's good for their future.